Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're digging into something powerful and maybe a little uncomfortable. Why is it that the most successful people are often the ones who stop learning? We're going to explore the psychological traps that can turn all that hard-won experience into a cage.
Now, I know what you're thinking. Die rather than learn? That sounds a bit dramatic, right? But honestly, for a lot of leaders, the psychological price of saying, I don't know, feels like a threat to their entire identity. It feels like a kind of professional death.
So here's how we're going to break this down today. We'll start with the hidden fear that drives this resistance. Then look at the mental traps we all fall into. After that, we'll see it all play out in a real-world case study and wrap up with some tough questions we all need to ask ourselves. All right, first stop, the Emperor's fear. Let's talk about that deep, sinking feeling of anxiety that can paralyze even the most powerful leaders, making them feel exposed and vulnerable, just like that emperor in the old fairy tale. At the very heart of all this is something called the imposter fear. You know that nagging little voice in the back of your head? The one that whispers, you're a fake, and any day now they're all going to find out. Well, when you're living with that voice, learning feels dangerous. Admitting you don't know something feels like you're just helping people figure you out. And this fear, it doesn't just stay inside a person's head. Oh no, it leaks out and poisons their actions. Instead of building the best team possible, they start focusing on protecting their own fragile ego. This is where you see leaders pushing down talented people, hiring yes men, and hiding behind complicated jargon. The source material really doesn't pull any punches here, and this is a huge takeaway. The excuse is always, I'm too busy. But the reality, the refusal to learn isn't a problem with your calendar. It's about a paralyzing fear of being seen as incompetent. It's about being terrified of showing any crack in the armor. Okay, so we've established the fear, but how does it actually, build a prison around someone's mind? Next, we're going to explore how the mind constructs its own echo chamber, where hearing your own ideas bounced back at you sounds just like learning. This mental prison is built, brick, by a little thing our brains do called confirmation bias. We all have it. It's our brain's natural tendency to look for proof that we're right, instead of searching for the actual truth. And in a leadership role, that bias can become incredibly toxic. And here's the real kicker. For someone trapped by this, learning isn't about discovery anymore. It's a hunt for validation. You read books and go to seminars not to change your mind, but to get a nice little pat on the back, to hear an expert confirm, you know what, you were right all along. I mean, just think about that word for a second. Hatred. Why such an extreme reaction? Why not just skepticism or disagreement? It's because if this new idea is true, it threatens to make years of their experience, their decisions, maybe even their whole identity, feel wrong. And the ego? Well, the ego would rather burn the truth to the ground than admit it might be flawed. So when the ego feels that threat, it doesn't just put up a little shield. No, it builds a whole fortress. Let's take a look at the 4 walls it constructs to keep new ideas out. You can literally watch this defense mechanism unfold in 4 predictable stages. First, they dismiss it. Oh, that's just theory. When that doesn't work, they attack the messenger. Who are you to tell me anything? Then comes the excuse. That's a great idea, but it'll never work here. And finally, the most sneaky move of all. They steal the language of the new idea and pretend they knew it all along, without actually changing a thing. Okay, so this all sounds pretty theoretical, right? Let's make it real. We're going to dive into a case study about a leader who was once a hero in his company, but was brought down by his own ego. Let's talk about the fallen king. So, meet Hung. He's the guy every company seems to have. A legend, a real rainmaker. His entire identity was built on being the guy with the street smarts, the one who learned in the trenches. He was proud of what he knew, and he absolutely hated anything that sounded like theory. And this was his mantra. It was his shield. Anytime a new idea, a new strategy, a new piece of training came up, this is the wall he'd throw up. This wasn't just something he said. It was the bedrock of his professional self. So what happened? The company decided to go digital. And for Hung, that was the trigger. You can literally see his ego's fortress go up in real time. He mocked the new training, got angry at his own junior team members for their innovative ideas, and tried to rationalize his old methods. And within just 1 year, his kingdom came crashing down. So if you do the psychological autopsy, what really killed his career? It wasn't the market changing. It wasn't the new technology. It was 3 deep, self-inflicted wounds. for whom learning these new skills wasn't about growth. It was like admitting his entire identity as a street fighter was now worthless. It was a kind of death sentence.
Hung's story is a warning, and it kind of forces us to turn the mirror on ourselves, which, let's be honest, can be really uncomfortable. So as we go through these next couple of questions, I really want you to be honest with yourself.
No, really. Think about it. If you can't remember the last time you said, you know what, I was wrong, to someone who reports to you, is it because you're literally perfect? Or is it because your ego just won't let you be vulnerable? Are you leading a team, or are you ruling a kingdom? Imagine this. A hidden camera is rolling during your most stressful, ugliest moment at work. Would you be proud to play that tape at the next all-hands meeting? We demand professionalism from everyone else, but does our own behavior stand up to that same test when the pressure's on? That first gut reaction, that's everything. A young employee, full of energy, brings you a new idea. Is your instant, unfiltered thought, this is fantastic? Or is it that little flicker of, who does this kid think they are? That one thought defines whether you're a leader who grows talent or a jailer who's afraid of it. And it really all boils down to this, doesn't it? A simple, powerful truth. Real wisdom doesn't come from being the smartest person in the room. It comes from having the humility to listen. So let's bring it all home. The biggest battle for our own growth is usually an internal one. It's about conquering that fear of looking like a beginner again. It's about actively fighting our own biases. And it's about tearing down those defensive walls our ego builds so that a little bit of wisdom can actually get in. So I'll leave you with this one last question to chew on. Right now, what is that one thing you know you should probably be learning, but your ego keeps telling you that you're too busy or too experienced or just too good for it? Because right on the other side of that wall, that's where your next breakthrough is waiting.